Welcome to this TV Tacoma Forum for Tacoma Mayor. I'm Noel Higgins of the League of Women Voters of Tacoma, Pierce County, and I will be moderating. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan organization whose mission for the past 101 years has been to empower informed and active participation of citizens in government. Candidate forums are one of the many ways we do this. Anyone age 16 or older can be a member of the League of Women Voters. For more information on our membership, go to our website at www.tacomapiercelwv.org. The candidates available today are Victoria Woodards and Jamika Scott. Steve Heverly is not present. Welcome, Victoria and Jamika.
Thank you.
Thank you both for being here. You have agreed to our ground rules, which, among other things, say that you will not discuss each other in your answers, but stick to the issues in your own positions. Will you now please verbally agree to this important ground rule?
I do.
I also agree.
Thank you. Candidates have 2 minutes for an opening statement, 90 seconds for each question, and 1 minute for closing statements. Our timekeeper is Susan Eidenschink. She will signal you when you have 1 minute remaining, 30 seconds, 15 seconds, and when it is time to stop. At the final signal, you may finish your short sentence. In ballot order, Victoria Woodards will give the first opening statement, followed by Jamika Scott. Victoria, your opening statement, please.
Thank you, Noel, and thank you to the League of Women Voters for hosting this forum and an opportunity to speak to the voters of Tacoma. Again, my name is Victoria Woodards, and I am running for mayor of Tacoma. I am seeking my second term. During the past 4 years, I think Tacoma has done a good job moving forward. Obviously, when the pandemic came to us last March, that slowed down a lot of the progress that we were making, and we pivoted. It has been an incredible year for our city and for our country. As your mayor, we have worked hard during this pandemic to make sure that we support the most vulnerable in our community, those who need it the most. We've supported our local small businesses and will continue to support them as we move out of COVID. I decided to run for re-election because I've led us through COVID and I want the opportunity to lead us out of COVID. Our city faces a number of challenges, and I'm prepared with my experience and commitment to this community to continue to address those challenges. Those challenges are housing and affordability, becoming an anti-racist city and addressing all of the systems and infrastructures that are in place that keep people from fulfilling their destiny in our city. And then also making sure that we have a thriving economy and that we also are addressing the environmental issues and climate change in our community. Those are the issues I'm committed to, as well as many other issues that face our city. I want to be your next mayor. I want to lead this city out of COVID and make sure that we are really supporting the residents of Tacoma, both our housed and unhoused residents of this city, to make sure that everyone has an opportunity to fulfill their destiny in this place we call the City of Destiny. Noel, you're on mute.
Jamika, will you give us your opening statement, please?
Yes, of course. Thank you. My name is Jamika Scott. I'm also running for mayor of Tacoma. I grew up here in Tacoma my entire life. I was the value of service to community and being an active member of the community was instilled in me at a very young age. My mom had me in a lot of various programs. I was a crossing guard at school. I worked in our community gardens. And I, spent a lot of time just kind of cleaning up the neighborhood and helping to, treat it with the respect and dignity that it deserved. A lot of folks feel that I don't necessarily have the elected experience to sit in the position of mayor, but I would say to that I don't have the elected experience necessarily, but I do have experience advocating for, caring for, and standing alongside the people of Tacoma. So with that, I really want to take time to bring in the community into the discussions that we're having about about the future of our city, about what that looks like, and to make sure that people who have been traditionally underserved, marginalized, and left out, that they also have a seat at the table and that they're a part of the conversation and, in fact, centralized in that conversation. I don't think it is up to me to tell the people of Tacoma what they need. I think it is up to the mayor, hopefully me, to stand together with the community so that we can find the impactful and authentic solutions that are going to move us forward together, and to take that action together. So I'm here as a person who loves this community dearly, as a person who wants nothing more than to see it thrive. And I want to focus on public safety, which encompasses a lot of things as far as mental health, housing, as well as COVID relief, the environment, and the creative economy. And I would appreciate your vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Jamika. Now for the questions, and the order of questions will rotate. Victoria, you have the first opportunity, and here is the question. Across the U.S. and here in Tacoma, we continue to see deaths of unarmed Black men at the hands of police. How will you, as mayor, ensure the accountability of the police?
Thank you, Noel, for that question. And I think there are two pieces to that question. And one is what we've done, what we're doing already. We have just gone through several processes within our police department to look at how to hold our police accountable. We've gotten back several reports that we are implementing the recommendations of accountability with our police department. The other thing I'll say is one thing that I'm really proud of that we're doing this year is that we are now in talks with our union about bargaining, and we have two community members sitting at that table, two African-American community members sitting at that table to help us get more accountability in our contracts with our police department. So that's what we've done. What will I do moving forward? We have stood up a project in Tacoma called Heal the Heart of Tacoma that is really looking at accountability and systemic racism in every system, but police accountability is the first system the first transformation team that we are standing up. I think that we need to bring our community into this conversation. They've been a part of it, but that our community needs to lead this conversation and tell us what we need to do. Now, that doesn't mean that we haven't already internally begun to look at what we need to do, but we really need to hear from our community as to what makes them feel safe, especially our Black and Brown community members.
Thank you, Victoria. Jamika, will you give us your answer to that question, please?
Yeah, so I feel like police accountability is obviously important. We need to make sure that we are implementing these policies that will allow us the proper path to hold these officers accountable. What I think is even more important, though, is finding a way to decentralize policing as our main form of public safety. We need to be focusing on how to address the issues that are actually causing people to call the police on their neighbors, that are bringing the police into our communities. So we need to be bringing mental health services to folks. And this is what I meant earlier by public safety. We need to be bringing mental health services to folks. We need to be bringing housing services. We need to be raising our minimum wage, and we need to be engaging our youth and investing in their education as well as their enrichment. There's a lot of things that go into police accountability, but I think, again, one of the main things that we should be doing alongside focusing on these various policy changes is to reorganize and reimagine the way that we keep our community safe. And that is not going to be policing in and of itself is oppressive. So finding some way to really remove that as our central piece of public safety and find ways to bring the human side back into focus and to the center of it.
Thank you. Jamika, you will start on the next question, followed by Victoria. And there's already been a mention of this, but I'd like some more detail from you. Collective bargaining agreements with police often control discipline of the officers. What changes should the city seek in the provisions for those collective bargaining agreements to make officer discipline more timely and more effective? Jamika, please.
I think that, the police union is doing what they're supposed to do by advocating for the members of their union. I think it is on the city to advocate for the people. And with that, I believe that in order to allow us to have to have a very streamlined path to finding justice and restorative justice at that, is to make sure that, again, we're centering the community rather than the police. There shouldn't be these blanket protections that allow for so much of the benefit of the doubt to be given to police. I think that, there's a lot of protections in place that don't allow for cops to be interviewed right away. There's not a lot of policy that allows for a truly independent agency to come in and investigate when there's excessive use or death in custody of police. So I think that those are two of the first things we should be looking at, as well as, and this might be at the state level, but also looking at making sure that there isn't any type of qualified immunity for these officers. They should, they're taking an oath to protect and serve this city. And in any other position, if you broke your responsibility of your job duties, you would have to face consequences for that. And so I think that, we should be implementing those things that are allowing us to actually look at the actions of the officers and have them receive appropriate consequences.
Thank you. Victoria, you're first on the next question. Some mayors and cities across the U.S. have introduced a plan for a trial of a guaranteed income program to try to eliminate poverty. Do you support this, and why or why not?
Not only do I support it, Noel, I'm actually a founding member of Mayors for a Guaranteed Income across the United States. I supported this because I think this is a really great opportunity for us to provide additional assistance to those who need it the most. I signed up for this program to be a part of the founding group because I saw the success that they had in Stockton, California, when they ran their Guaranteed Income pilot project. They were able to really lift people out of poverty, allowed people to get better jobs. And I want to see that happen here in Tacoma. So here in Tacoma, we have partnered with United Way and other Tacoma Housing Authority and Greater Tacoma Community Foundation. And we are bringing a guaranteed pilot project to Tacoma called GRIT, which is Growing Resistance in Tacoma. We will be launching, we've already launched, but we'll be handing out our first payments in September, and they will go to members of our community who are single parents, who have children under the age of 18. We will be giving $500 a month for 12 months, and we believe that this is important to really understand the difference that a guaranteed income can make in the lives of our community members. We are focused on ALICE, which is Asset Limited Income Constraint and Employed, those people who get up every day and go to work, but still don't have enough money to take care of themselves and their family. I'm excited about this program. While it is a demonstration, we hope that what we learn will then help us to create a national narrative to be able to support this program nationally.
Thank you. Jamika, what is your response to the Guaranteed Income Program project to try to eliminate poverty? Do you support it?
Yes.
Why or not?
Oh, sorry. Yes, I definitely support it. I mean, I think that, there should be some type of guaranteed income, some type of universal basic income, whatever the wording you want to use for it. I think that, along with that, we should be looking at not just guaranteed income, but also working to raise the minimum wage for everyone in general. Pilot programs are great, and obviously we have to start somewhere. But I really, truly believe that a lot of our issues can be solved by getting people's basic needs met. And one of the ways that we can do that is by making sure people have money in their pockets and in the bank so that they can take care of themselves. And they're not making these decisions where they have to decide between food and shelter or between gas and electricity. So I support it. And not only, am I interested in this one particular pilot, but I'm interested in finding a way to, get that happening for everybody pretty quickly. So thank you.
Thank you, Jamika. Jamika, you're first on the next question. Tacoma's Planning Commission has recommended initial growth scenarios for home in Tacoma. Low scale and mid scale development in single family areas is being recommended. What are your views on this? And do you have any new suggestions?
I think it's great. I think that we need to be looking at all types of zoning and looking at ways that we can build up our neighborhoods and places that, have the space for it. So yeah, I definitely support a lot of what I've seen in the Home in Tacoma project. And, I'm not like this. I'm not an economist. I'm not somebody who works in development. So, I feel like a lot of my ideas might seem very broad, but, I think that we also just need to be looking into more low barrier housing as well, but also like alternative forms of housing. Yes, people want to be housed, but not everybody wants to be housed in a traditional house. So finding ways to accommodate those people who want to live in tiny homes, finding ways to accommodate people who want to, reuse a shipping container, finding ways to accommodate people who do like to camp out in their cars, and finding ways to make sure that that is safe. I think that there's so many various ways to live and exist in a city. And I think that we can be finding ways to accommodate all of those things without putting strain on our neighbors.
Thank you. And Victoria, please.
I am a huge supporter of home in Tacoma. I think what we have to recognize is that Tacoma is a growing city and we are going to continue to grow, but we have to find a way to absorb that growth. And when I say I'm a fan of home in Tacoma, I do believe there are some tweaks that need to be made. I really appreciate the work of the Planning Commission and the fact that they looked at every opportunity of how we could get more density in Tacoma. But I think what I love about Tacoma is the fact that every neighborhood is different. And as we look at home in Tacoma, it does kind of give a blanket idea of what planning could look like across the entire city. And I hope that as we get into more discussions that we think about what planning looks like in individual neighborhoods. Like I said, one of the things that makes Tacoma so great is the character of its neighborhoods. And I think our neighborhoods can absorb density. We can provide different variations of ways that people can live. I think Jamika did a great job of outlining some of the ways, some of the ideas and the different ways that people want to seek housing in our community. And I think we can do that through Home in Tacoma. We have an affordability crisis in the city. And if we're really going to be committed to providing housing for everyone who wants it, which I believe is a basic human right, then we've got to make sure that we are providing enough opportunities. And one of the reasons that affordability is out of control in our communities because there's not enough supply and we need more supply. And I believe that supply should come in single family housing. I believe it should come in condos, in apartments, in tiny homes, whatever a person desires to live in.
Thank you. Okay, Victoria, you're next on this question, followed by Jamika. Do you support the 8-year property tax forgiveness for developers who build market rate multi-family housing in Tacoma?
So let's talk about the MFTE because I truly believe that there is a little bit of a misunderstanding about what the multifamily tax exemption tool was for. It was never created to help create more affordable housing. It was used as an economic development tool to spur more development in community. And I think it's done what it's supposed to do. I, however, am focused on creating more opportunities for development so that we can get more affordable housing in our city. The current tools that we have and the way that we define affordability is not affordability. 80% AMI from the county's AMI is not affordable in Tacoma. As a matter of fact, 80% of the county's AMI is not even the area median income for Tacoma. And so while I think those tools has been effective, I think we need more tools in our toolbox to really get at the issue of affordability in our community. So while the 8-year tax exemption has been successful, I think that we need to look at more ways to incentivize affordable housing, not just the 8-year tax exemption, but really incentivizing more affordable housing in our community, so that we can make sure that everybody who works in this city, who lives in this city, or who chooses to be a part of this community has a place to live.
Thank you. Jamika?
Yeah, oh, sorry.
You remember the question. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I agree. I think that they're just what we're saying is the market rate and what's affordable for the county. It just is not affordable for Tacoma. And I think if we look at not only what our unhoused population looked like prior to COVID, but especially now, even with eviction moratoriums in place, like, we have even more people who are housing insecure, who are having to live in their cars, who are camping out on the streets. And so I think that I understand why that initial tax exemption was there, but I think that we need to push it even further. And I think not only should it be an incentive, but I think it should be and I want to be careful with my words, but some type of directive that we don't need people who are going to come into this community and profit off of the people here when we're already struggling and there's not much in our pockets already. So, I have so many friends and family members, people that I've talked to who are struggling to find housing. People are having to share spaces that are not meant to hold as many people as are in there. So I think that finding those ways to bring developers in here and to hold them to the standard that we are not looking to create any type of housing. We are looking to create housing that allows the people of Tacoma to live with dignity and to be able to afford and maintain the house that they're in.
Thank you. Jamika, you're first on this question. What role can the Tacoma Public Library play in the equity effort?
That's a great question. I think our library is a very wonderful resource. I think that our libraries are a great place for education. They are a great place for gathering. They are a great place to really get the word out, but also to utilize the fact that, books can change lives. Books can communicate stories that people might not be able to hear otherwise. I love our Tacoma Reads program. There's so many things that I feel the library does well by bringing people in. And I think that utilizing the library as a public resource, as a public utility, it can allow for people not only to be educated, but to have access to resources that they might not have, whether that is information via, a book, information via the internet, whether it's finding out more about the city of Tacoma and our history and using that to propel us forward. But I think the library in general has always been this space of knowledge, the space of welcoming, and a space of equity when it's given the chance to be. I think it's important that we have more libraries in our community because they can really serve as not just, information centers, but media centers. And they can push out content that helps to educate our community, as well as to educate people outside of Tacoma about what's happening in Tacoma and what's going well and what we need to work on. I'm a big fan of the libraries. I'm actually on the Library Foundation board. Yes, libraries all the way.
Thank you. Victoria, your response, please.
Yeah, I think libraries play an integral role in equity in our community in a number of ways. Number one, not just the bricks and mortar of the library, although I think bricks and mortars are brick and mortar library is incredibly important because it really is the center of community. But I think the other thing that we need to look at and continue to refine is the fact that it's not just about the brick and mortar of the library, but it's about the services, the library services. And I think we need to be more innovative in how we provide library services because because not everybody right now has access to a brick and mortar library, but that doesn't mean that they shouldn't have access to services. So as we move forward and reopen our economy, really looking at how we can provide library services. There have been a couple of new ideas that have come out, kind of the idea of these hubs in community centers where students can go in, and it's kind of like a vending machine, but much bigger than a vending machine that comes along with services. So you can go in and get a hotspot. You can go in and rent a computer, get a computer on loan. You can get a book. So our ability to really support our communities through our libraries is really a way to get at equity. I also think not just the books themselves, but also libraries' ability to provide internet access and to provide computer access for people who are looking for jobs, to provide training and classes and opportunities to learn and engage with community. I really think that they also provide opportunities when it's time to vote. So they're really a hub and a resource for our communities. And I think they play an integral part of how we get at equity in our community.
Thank you. Okay, Victoria, let's ask you to answer this next question first. All right. How can homeless encampments be made safer and more sanitary?
Thank you for that question, Noel. I think there are a number of things, and you've seen the city council right now. Number one, I think that Tacoma, we are continuing to look for, but we need to provide sanctioned encampments in Tacoma. Low barrier sanctioned encampments or low barrier shelters. The encampments that are out in our city are neither fair to those who are living in the encampments or to the property owners who are close to the encampments. We are not supporting our community in a dignified way. And so for me, as we think about how to address those issues, I think number one, we've got to find sanctioned encampments or property where people can freely go to be part of an encampment or to live there. I also think through our TEM sites, through our emergency micro shelter sites, that there are opportunities to provide micro shelter sites that are low barrier. The way our system is set up right now is that there are not housing options for everyone who is homeless. We have several housing options, but not enough to address all the issues of our houseless community. And I think that's where we need to start, is making sure that we have all kinds of options for our houseless community. And that includes, we have our stability site, we have these TEM sites, that also includes safe parking sites for people who are in their cars, but it also includes safe sites for people who are living in tents in our community.
Thank you. Jamika?
Yeah, I think that there's a lot, obviously, that we can do going forward to kind of get people housed, whether that is these low-barrier sites, these emergency sites, these stability sites. But I think, one of the things we need to be looking at is not just temporary housing. I mean, it can be temporary, but it needs to be like we have, one of our youth shelters that, youth are there at night, but they have to leave throughout the day, and it's not giving them anything to do and anywhere to go, and nobody's engaging with them. And so really finding ways to engage that community as they are part of this community, bringing them services, and making sure that, we are really breaking down the barriers it takes for them to get to a place where they feel stable, where they feel supported. I think in the meantime, because none of that's going to happen overnight, I think what's important is, of course, people aren't happy that there's an encampment in their front yard or next to their business. But that does not mean that we should not, giving people in encampments bathrooms, wash stations, and so on. That's not enabling them to live on the street. That's allowing them to live in a way that is dignified. That's allowing them to live in a way that, maybe that's the only place that they're going to have to use the bathroom. That's the only place that they're going to have to wash up for a job interview or to get before they're going to work. So I think really supporting people who are on the street now with resources to allow them to stay safe, stay healthy, stay sanitary, that's what we should be doing immediately.
Victoria? Our next question actually it follows from the last conversation. And it is, do you support having toilets and garbage collection near homeless encampments? And if not, why not?
Well, actually, I do support that. Not only do I support it, we've actually done it in Tacoma. We have put out both porta potties and garbage collection. We also launched a garbage collection program that we are going around the city as well with in getting in helping to collect the garbage that is on site at some of our homeless encampments. So I absolutely support it. I think we need to do more. I do believe it's more than just a bathroom and a sink. I believe that we really need to provide more opportunities for our houseless community. While being in an encampment and having those basic needs met, we still need to provide other things like the ability for people to wash clothes, the ability for people to get additional services they need, whether that's mental health services or drug treatment services. I think while we're providing what we would call basic needs in porta potties and in hand washing stations and garbage collections, we need to be providing the kinds of services and support that will help our houseless community be able to find real shelter, not just temporary shelter, but permanent shelter, a house, a place to live. And so we've got to think bigger than just those really basic needs and really get at an opportunity to provide housing and full-time support, which includes building more permanent supportive housing in our city.
Thank you. And Jamika, you had already spoken about that, the issue about garbage collection and toilets near homeless encampments. That was my next question. Victoria just responded. Do you have anything further you'd like to say about that?
What I will say is that, if we look to the community is trying to do the work of filling the gaps where, the city hasn't necessarily gotten everything in place. So we have some really great mutual aid collectives that have been working to do outreach to these communities and to bring things to these communities that aren't traditionally there. And I think if we look at that model of mutual aid, if we kind of on a citywide level, if we can get in touch with these organizations that are already doing this type of outreach work, that are looking to provide these services, whether it's mental health, whether it's drug treatment, whether it, whatever it is that folks are needing. If we look at these orgs that are already providing these services and find some way to partner with them to create kind of a broader network of mutual aid that can support these small collectives that are doing the work on the ground already, I think that will go a long way to keeping us ahead of the problem just a bit until we can get to the point where we really are offering affordable housing and the services to get people into those houses.
Thank you. Jamika, you'll be next on this question. City plans regarding climate change do not deal with vehicle emissions, our single largest source of greenhouse gases. What does the city need to do to reduce emissions?
I think that, Tacoma is already a pretty walkable city, a pretty bikeable city, but it's not entirely there. So I think that our public transportation leaves a bit to be desired. So, I think that focusing in on, maybe even more incentives for carpooling, but also just really, focusing in on building out our public transportation, focusing in on what we can do to make our streets more accessible to cyclists and to people who want to walk. There's a lot of streets that are very dark. There's a lot of streets that don't necessarily have bike lanes or, adequate sidewalks. So, and I know there's some work going in and infrastructure and fixing the roads and so on. But I think more of that and really focusing in on getting people from having to rely so heavily on cars is going to be pretty central in reducing those emissions.
Thank you. Victoria, how do you respond?
Well, what we know is that the second largest expense in a household is transportation. And so as we look at addressing this issue of car emission, I think there are a couple of things that we need to do. Number one, we need to continue to build up our neighborhoods too often in a lot of our neighborhoods that while they're walkable, there aren't all the services people need in their neighborhoods. So there's not a grocery store that's in walking distance. There's not a drugstore that's in walking distance. There's, the services that there's not the services that our community needs within those neighborhoods doesn't exist. So people have to get in their cars and go everywhere. So number one, I think that we need to continue to develop some of our urban centers and some of our neighborhoods, number one, to make sure that people don't have to get in their cars. The second thing is that we really need to increase our bus system, but that means partnering with our community in order to do that. People in our community take the bus because they have to, not because they want to. So we need to provide more convenient and available bus service. Sound Transit is expanding, so that's an opportunity to provide more, that's an opportunity to get people out of their cars and onto transit. And so I think we're doing some things, but I think there's a whole lot more for us to do. We have sidewalks that are issues in our community. So some communities can't walk in their communities. They can't get from point A to point B safely. So we need to continue to work on our infrastructure and make sure that we're building more bike lanes, that we're building better streets and sidewalks so that people have access to be able to walk and get to places easier.
Thank you. Victoria, let's put you next on this question. And it's going to be about the Tacoma Town Center. Tacoma Town Center is back in discussion. That, of course, is 21st to 23rd Streets, Jefferson to Tacoma Avenue. The new proposal calls for more office space, more parking spaces. What are your views on the project as it's currently proposed?
Let me say, I am grateful that we just have signed off with another partner who's partnering with the person who started the development to continue to move that development forward. What I'm excited about in that development, and the reason I support the development, is the housing that it will bring. While I know that the new development has gotten rid of some of the common spaces and some of the retail spaces and going more to more office space, we do need more Class A office space in Tacoma. That is absolutely true. And so I support the development, but what I'm excited about in this development is the additional housing it will bring for Tacoma. And again, as we continue to talk about affordability, part of the issue is it really is a supply and demand conversation as well. And the more supply we get in our community, then the cheaper housing will become, in addition to other things that we have to do. So I think it's a great project for Tacoma. It will help develop the Fawcett area. We have lots of development happening on Fawcett, the 21st to 23rd, as well as we just broke ground last week on the new project coming to 15th and Fawcett. I think it will help to increase housing for our students at the University of Washington Tacoma campus. And so I'm excited about the development, and I'm looking forward to seeing how we can continue to partner to build more housing in Tacoma.
Thank you. Jamika, your response?
Yeah, I feel that a lot of the, when I've been looking into this project and kind of talking to people about it, a lot of people really are worried about how the quality that it's going to bring to the community. With any new development, it always raises questions of, is this for Tacoma? Is this for the people? And so I'm hesitant to put my support behind it fully because, traditionally, developments like this do often cater to people who have the money to live there, have the money to rent the space, have the money to shop at the businesses. I know that area needs to be developed. I know that we have the space down there, and we should be looking to increase commerce and increase spaces, office spaces as well as living spaces. I'm happy that it's in the talks, in the works. I'm just always hesitant to fully support something not when it doesn't necessarily cater to the direct need of the most vulnerable people in the city.
Thank you, Jamika. This is going to be the last question, and I'm going to ask you all just to take 1 minute each because we are close to our closing here. And so the last minute for one question each with Jamika first. How will you engage and work alongside communities that speak additional languages beyond English? For 90 seconds, please.
Yeah, I'm personally trying to learn Spanish. It's been a passion of mine to learn other languages. I know a little bit of sign language and I know a little bit more of Spanish. But I think that really not just trying to bring in interpreters and so on, because that's going to be super important, but also just highlighting these communities that live here. I think a lot of people don't understand just how diverse our community actually is and all of the various languages that are spoken here. So I think not just encouraging, schools to pick up these languages that are really commonly spoken in Tacoma, but also encouraging adults to learn these languages, as well as showcasing these cultures and getting people interested just in the sense of, I didn't realize that we had people who spoke Spanish or Mandarin or, there's so many various languages here. So I think just really highlighting the culture here and bringing these services to our schools will be a really, really big help.
Thank you. And Victoria, in 60 seconds or less, what's your answer to that?
Sorry about that. Of course, I get through the whole thing and now I forget to unmute myself. I think I talk about what makes Tacoma so great. And for me, what makes Tacoma so great is the people who live in this city. And I think the government has an obligation to make sure when we talk about engaging community, which is so important, that we don't engage community just in the way that we think is important, but that we engage community in the way they want to be engaged with. And that means all of our communities who are ESL, who English is their second language. And I think we have a responsibility as a city to not just ask people to come to us in a way that we traditionally include community, but going out to community, meeting them where they are in the way that they are, in the language that they speak, and making sure that we are allowing their voices to be heard, that their recommendations into how our city moves forward is incorporated. But I think it's our responsibility as a city to make sure that we are providing services and opportunities in a language and in a way that actually speaks to the residents who choose to call Tacoma home.
Thank you. Now it's time for closing statements. You have 1 minute each. Jamika Scott, give the first closing statement, please.
Almost forgot to unmute. Again, I'll end by saying I'm Jamika Scott. I'm running for mayor. I really, truly believe that I have the fresh perspective that Tacoma needs. We've been seeing a lot of incrementalism and a lot of action that doesn't really reflect where the community is at, what the community needs, and what the community has been saying. I feel very much sure that I have done the work. I have the experience, I have the connections, and I have the passion to lead this city in a way that allows for collaboration and really taking collective and impactful action that's going to start to move us forward in a way that feels tangible and it feels real.
Thank you. Victoria, your closing statement, please.
Thank you, Noel, and thank you again to the League of Women Voters for this opportunity to be with you. I am Victoria Woodards. I have been your mayor for the past 4 years. I am a product of this city. I have grown up here, went to school here, graduated from here, and I've been committed to a lifetime of service to Tacoma. We've got a lot of work to do here in Tacoma, and I absolutely know that because I do it every single day. We've had a trying year. And it is time for us to come out of this COVID pandemic and the systemic racism pandemic and move our city forward. I believe that takes experience, and that's what I bring to the table. I have led this city through this very difficult time. I am committed to making sure that Tacoma really is a city where everyone who chooses to call this place home can live out the creed that we speak so highly of, and that is being the city of destiny. Everyone should be able to be successful here. And if you elect me to be your mayor again for the next 4 years, I will make sure that we achieve that goal. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you both, Victoria Woodards and Jamika Scott, candidates for mayor. Thank you, TV Tacoma, our timekeeper, Susan Eidenschink, and all of our community co-sponsors. And please, everyone viewing, remember to vote for August 3rd primary. Thank you all.